Hey guys, what's up? Today on the breakdown I wanted to share with you a few tips before you plan your next trip. So I know on our blog we recently posted about how to find some good places to go camping, and I hope that was super helpful. So now I want to talk about the things that you need to do before you go. So a lot of times people ask us, how do you guys get ready for a trip, or what are some things that I can do to prepare before I go out in the outdoors? Because honestly, a lot of what your experience is going to be when you're out in the woods is part of your planning. If you prepare well, you'll usually have a good time. But that old saying, even the best laid plans sometimes end in failure. So you always have to just prepare, do your best, and then handle what comes at you. So I've kind of divided this up in a couple different ways. First thing is the pre-trip. Before you go, you need to do your research. And again, as we talked about on our blog post, that's where choosing a spot is going to come into play. Find a place that you want to go. Once you have that place in mind, get on the internet. Check out the area websites. If it's a National Park Service, go there, BLM land, anything that you can do to find out as much information as possible. That's going to be super important. That's going to tell you about some hot spots that you can check out while you're there. It's also going to tell you about the climate, because climate's a big deal. If you're going down south, maybe in the desert areas or canyons or swamps, anything, you'll kind of get an idea of what the weather's going to be like throughout that time of year. Now with that, you're also going to want to know what the climate is doing in the next couple days. So be sure and check that out as far out as you can, and then check it often and check it regularly. I know when Jeff and I have gone out to southern Utah, sometimes we'll check and everything looks great 10 days before. But as we get closer, sometimes that window closes. So be sure and check the weather. Make sure you know what you're getting into as best as you can. This will also help you to plan food. If you're going into an area that there's not a lot of vegetation, some edibles that you can find, you probably need to carry more food with you. If you're going on a fishing excursion, you'll know that there's a lot of fish in the area. Chances are that you'll probably be okay to eat what you catch, and that's great. And then always try and throw in some extra food as well. You never know when you might have to make meals last for 2 or 3 days afterwards. If something unexpected comes up, just make sure you have a little bit of extra so that you can get by in case you need to get out. Also, have the proper equipment. I know a lot of people, they may not feel comfortable sleeping in a hammock, so don't take a hammock. Other people, they do. If they know they're going to be hiking a long ways, they want to cut back on the weight, so that's one thing that they can do. Be sure then, use an all-season sleeping pad or sleeping bag. Check the weight of what you're carrying and make sure you go prepared. I know that a lot of times we tend to sacrifice comfort for lightweight or anything else, but there are times when it's worth carrying the extra heavy sleeping bag or the extra food utensils. So make sure you take the right equipment, and that also includes your clothing and your footwear. Make sure when you're going out, it's not always the best idea to try out a brand new pair of shoes on a 50-mile hike. In fact, that's probably a guarantee for blisters and sore feet. So break things in before you go. You're not going to be taking flip-flops if you're going up into the mountains. So again, just wear the proper equipment. And then the last thing is to prepare physically. When you're doing your research, if you know that you're going to be straight uphill the whole way and it's a really aggressive climb, you probably need to work out for that. Not just so much getting, endurance shape, but, try out those types of terrains as best as you can. Get yourself in shape for what you're going to be doing and working on while you're out. The next thing, and this is super important, make a detailed plan. As best as you can, try and map out where you want to be. If you're going on, a week-long trip, make sure you know each day where you guys want to be at the end of that day. Try and get as many details as possible. Learn about the area. I know that Jeff and I took a trip down south one time into a BLM wilderness area, and we had a rough idea of where we wanted to be and where we wanted to go, but once we got into this wilderness, it was so wide and so vast that we were nowhere near where we thought we would be. Had we gone into a more detailed plan and checked out mileage and, had a better feeling of what distances would be required per day, we probably would have had a more enjoyable trip. So just make sure you do a real detailed plan. That'll also help in telling people where you go, when to expect you, and again, you'll be able to have a lot more fun. And then just think about, what are the physical requirements for this area? What's the weather going to be doing? What equipment? Do I need to go and supplement my gear in any way? Do I need to talk to anybody about doing some special interest activities? So that's really good. And then the last thing, always have an escape plan. You never know when the weather might turn, when you might get stranded, when gear might break, something shuts down. So again, always have an escape plan so that you can get out safely. So we got everything pre-trip planned. Immediately before the trip, we're going to do our last minute preparations and things. So, get a detailed logistical plan in place. Make sure you share that with somebody. Tell them where you're going to be going. Tell them where they can expect you on the different days, just in case something were to happen to you or someone back home. If they need to get a hold of you and get in touch with you, they'll know exactly where to look. Super, super important. Make sure you have all of the right permits and permissions in place. If you guys are going into a national park and you have to have a permit, make sure you guys secure that. If you're doing like a Boy Scout outing, make sure you have your tour plan in place. If you are using private property or crossing into other areas that you need permission for, make sure you do that ahead. It's a common courtesy, and it's going to make sure the rest of us can enjoy those same opportunities as well. Again, looking at your trip, when you've done your research, see what kind of skills are going to be required. I know that maybe you want to go try out rock climbing. Are you skilled in that area? Do you understand the knots and the equipment and everything that's required for you to do that? Again, don't go anywhere beyond your skills. I remember when I was doing snowboarding a lot, I watched an instructional video, and one thing they said is never try a trick that you don't feel comfortable with. Now obviously it's important to push yourself and to try new things, be progressive, but at the same time, don't go outside your comfort level. If you get that feeling inside like maybe this isn't a good idea, you should listen to it. There's always next time. Live to fight another day for sure. Another thing too is check if there's any formal training required. Going back to the example of rock climbing, I can't just go to the local REI, grab some ropes and everything else and expect to go have a great climbing trip. In fact, I'm probably putting my life in danger. So make sure you guys get the proper training required. Again, going back to the Boy Scouts, use the Guide to Safe Scouting. Find out what's required for you guys to go out. You need to have somebody CPR trained, first aid trained. Just make sure you're following these regulations. They're in place for a purpose, and that's to keep you safe and the people around you safe. So whether you're going in a big Boy Scout group or just with a couple buddies or even by yourself, make sure you get the proper training before you go. And that could be anything from, again, climbing experience to just survival experience out in the desert, whatever it may be. And then the last thing is when you guys get there to the local area that you're going to go check out, one thing that's been really good for us when I'm out with Dayton and Paul, we go to the local Forest Service or BLM office. We let them know that we're in the area, telling them where we're from, kind of what we've planned out, what our logistical idea is of where we're going to be going, what we're going to be doing. These are the guys who are there, who are paid to be there all the time. They know these areas better than you do. They can kind of give you an idea, hey, this is kind of what's going on, and they may have more recent updates that you may not have seen online. I know one time that we took a trip and we got down there and they said, you know what, boys, this road's closed. You're not going to be able to make it in. Even though everything we read said that it should be open, everything should be fine, they were able to direct us into a different route. We still got to take our trip, but it saved us a lot of time, a lot of headache. So check with those local offices, let them know you're there. They'll be able to help you out, and also they'll answer any questions you might have and may give you some tips that are important for you. So again, this is all pre-trip planning stuff. Hopefully this saves you a lot of time, a lot of headache, and a lot of disaster. Because again, as we know, things happen. So be prepared, do the best you can to prepare yourself physically, mentally, get your pack ready. But have a great time. Enjoy the outdoors, and as always, we'll see you on the trail. Thanks for watching, guys.